Postscript: a brief history of why the US consumer thinks the way they do. To understand the psychology of modern consumer and to grasp where they might be heading next, you have to know how they got here, how we all got here. If you fell asleep in 1945 and woke up in 2020, you would not recognize the world around you. The amount of economic growth that took place during that period is virtually unprecedented. If you saw the level of wealth in New York and San Francisco, you would be shocked. If you compared it to the poverty of Detroit, you would be shocked. If you saw the price of homes, college tuition, and healthcare, you would be shocked. If you saw the average Americans think about savings and spending in general, you would be shocked. And if you try to think of a reasonable narrative of how it all happened, my guess is you would be totally wrong, because it isn't intuitive and it wasn't foreseeable. What happened in America since the end of World War II is the story of American consumer. It's a story that helps explain why people think about money the way they do today. The short story is this: things were very uncertain and they were very good. Then pretty bad, then really good, then really bad, and now here we are. And that is, I think, a narrative that links all those events together, not a detailed account, but a story of how things fit together. Since this is an attempt to link the big events together, it leaves out many details of what happened during this period. I am likely to agree with anyone who points out what I've missed. The goal here is not to describe every play, it's to look at how one game influenced the next. Here's how the modern consumer got here. First, August 1995, World War II ends. Japan surrendering was the happiest day in American history, the New York Times wrote, but there is the saying, history is just one damn thing after another. The joy of the war ending was quickly met with the question, what happens now? 16 million Americans, 11% of the population, served in the war. About 8 million were overseas at the end. Their average age was 23. Within 18 months, all but 1.5 million of them would be home and out of uniform. And then what? What were they going to do next? Where were they going to work? Where were they going to live? Those were the most important questions of the day for two reasons. One, no one knew the answers. Two, if they couldn't be answered quickly, the most likely scenario in the eyes of many economists was that the economy would slip back into the depths of a Great Depression. Three forces had built up during the war. Housing construction ground to a halt, as virtually all production capacity was shifted to building war supplies. Fewer than 12,000 homes per month were built in 1943, equivalent to less than one new home per American city. Returning soldiers faced a severe housing shortage. The specific jobs created during the war, building ships, tanks, and planes, were very suddenly not necessary after it, stopping with a speed and magnitude rarely seen in private business. It was unclear where soldiers could work. The marriage rate spiked during and immediately after the war. Soldiers didn't want to return to their mother's basement. They wanted to start a family in their own home with a good job right away. This worried policymakers, especially since the Great Depression was still a recent memory, having ended just 5 years prior. In 1946, the Council of Economic Advisers delivered a report to President Truman warning of a full-scale depression sometime next 1 to 4 years. They wrote in a separate 1947 memo summarizing a meeting with Truman. We might be in some sort of recession period where we should have to be very sure of our ground as to whether recessionary forces might be in danger of getting out of hand. There is substantial prospect which should not be overlooked that a further decline may increase the danger of a downward spiral into depression conditions. This fear was exacerbated by the fact that exports couldn't be immediately relied upon for growth, as two of the largest economies, Europe and Japan, sat in ruins dealing with humanitarian crisis, and America itself was buried in more debt than ever before, limiting direct government stimulus. So we did something about it.